has just released the first quarter 2011 update to the global IT spending forecast. This quarter I'm going to highlight three things. The first is that the forecast itself is essentially unchanged. The second is that the recent events around the world, political unrest in the Middle East and the natural disasters in Japan, have not really impacted the forecast at this stage. And the third thing is that we've added media tablets to the forecast for the first time this quarter. So turning to the top line numbers, for 2011 we've increased the growth forecast from 5.1% last quarter to 5.6% this quarter. And that 0.5% percentage point increase is essentially put down to fluctuations in exchange rates. Turning to the events around the world, unrest in the Middle East has not really affected our forecast. The Middle East accounts for 1 or 2% of global IT spending, so there's not really a big impact at the global level there. We are concerned about the potential impact of higher oil prices on the global economy, and that could impact IT spending, but at this stage we're not factoring that in. Turning to Japan, there's two things in Japan that we're concerned about. The first is the electronic supply chain and the impact globally that could have, and the second is IT spending in Japan itself. The electronic supply chain, initially there were some concerns about shortages of critical components such as silicon wafers for semiconductor manufacturing, BT resin for IC packaging, and batteries for electronics production. Initially there was, as I say, some real concern that there was going to be an impact on global electronics production. However, over the past couple of weeks those concerns are somewhat diminished, and at this stage we're beginning to think that the global supply chain may be able to cope with the disruption caused by the problems in Japan. This is because of buffer stock in the channel, because of inventories, because of alternate suppliers and so on. So although we're not ruling out spot shortages of critical components at this stage, it seems to be a slightly more optimistic outlook on that front. Turning to IT spending in Japan itself, Japan accounts for about 10% of global IT spending. We believe in the short term that Japan will obviously be prioritising other things such as the humanitarian situation, rebuilding, reconstruction and so on. So we may see a 3 to 6 month pause in IT spend in Japan itself, and that may impact negatively on 2011 growth from Japan. However, we think that will probably be offset longer term with a boost in spending as those reconstruction efforts get underway. So turning to media tablets, we've included media tablets in our computing hardware estimates this quarter. So just to put some numbers on that, about 20 billion in 2010 in terms of spending on media tablets, rising to about 80 billion by 2015. So that's a huge growth of around about 50% annual average growth in spending there. In terms of units, somewhere short of 20 million units last year, rising to 300 million by 2015. So huge growth in that market. And we announced a week or two ago a reduction in our PC forecast, and much of the cause for that was the growth in media tablets. So that's now being factored into the overall IT spending forecast. And we're seeing the reduction in PCs being more than offset by the strong growth in media tablets.